your source for everything paranormal. Para X. The views expressed and the opinions given by the individual host and their guests do not necessarily reflect those of Para X, its affiliates, or its sponsors.
almost 2 decades, Midnight Syndicate has composed the soundtrack to your darkest nightmares. The imaginations of fans worldwide have been fueled by its gothic, horror, and fantasy symphonic albums. A staple of the haunted house and amusement park industry, for many, the music of Midnight Syndicate is the music of Halloween. Now, Midnight Syndicate will bring your nightmares to life in a spectacle of sound from beyond the grave.
meet and hail to all. Heed the words I now shall call. Live you must, and let to live. Fairly take, and fairly give. Do what thou will, if it harms none. By the magic of old, may it be done. Greet the days and greet the night, with joy and thanks for all delights. 9 woods in the cauldron go, as above, so below. Welcome to Stirring the Cauldron on the Para-X Radio Network. And now, here's your host, Marla Brooks.
Merry meet everybody, and welcome to Stirring the Cauldron on the Para-X Radio Network. Tonight, I'm really happy to have Barry Fitzgerald joining me to talk about his new book with Justin Perry called My Home is Haunted, Now What? As I'm sure you all know, Barry can be seen on Sci-Fi's hit series Ghost Hunters International, and his interest in the paranormal has been lifelong, having experienced supernatural events as a child growing up in Ireland. In addition to his latest book, Barry's also the author of The Complete Approach, The Influence, and if I'm not mistaken, I think I saw something about him climbing Mount Kilimanjaro in Africa later this year. Seriously. So we'll be talking about that a bit later. But in the meantime, if anyone has any questions or comments for Barry and you're in the Para-X chat room, please send me a private message and I'll be happy to pass them on. If you're listening elsewhere and something pops into your head, come over to www.para-x.com and let's hear from you. Just click on the show chat button on the right side near the top of the homepage and you'll magically appear in chat. And if you want to call in, you can do that too. The number is 888-99-PARA-X or 888-997-2729. And that being said, Barry, you can come out of hiding now and welcome to the show.
Hello, Marla. How are you?
Doing good. You know, I was noticing on your Facebook page that some folks were wondering if your dog Max was going to be with you tonight as well. So is he there and has he settled in comfortably?
Max is actually sleeping at the foot of the bed. So he's past his bedtime, so he's fast asleep.
Okay, good. Well, he's here in spirit, in bodily spirit. That didn't sound right. Yeah. What breed is he? Because he looks quite a bit like my dog Callie.
He's a Danish Shepherd. His mother was a Danish Shepherd, and his father was a Japanese Akita. So as he's developed, he has kept his mother's tail and smashes everything in sight, and he has his father's head.
Oh, he's beautiful. And, you know, like I said, Callie's close, so I have to say that. But no, it's true. He's a beautiful dog. Is he a good spirit dog? Because I know Callie isn't a puppy anymore, and she's getting a little blasé about the whole thing. But since animals are such great barometers for sniffing out paranormal activity, how is he on that?
He is exceptionally good, and a very intelligent dog, and he trains very, very well. So I've noticed him on a few occasions. He will run to the top of the stairs here in this house, and he will just stare down the corridor, during the night, of course, he hears a few things, but he doesn't fire off or anything. He just lifts his head, listens, and then goes back to sleep, and he's fine.
Good puppy. Well, that's a good segue into what we're going to be talking about tonight, which is your new book. And, you know, on the surface, dealing with a haunted house may seem quite simple to some people. They figure they could just call in a ghost hunter and voila, it's a done deal. Or they move away from the house if that's possible. Or they suffer in silence because they're, you know, afraid of being ridiculed for even believing in such a thing. But, you know, I was looking up, recent polls show that 1 in 3 Americans do believe in ghosts. And in Europe, 70% of people believe in the human soul, 55% believe in heaven, and 53% believe in an afterlife. Now, as a rule, they say that most nonfiction books are born out of necessity. So, in your opinion, have hauntings increased over the past few years, perhaps tied to maybe the 2012 veil between the two worlds getting thinner? Or was it just high time that you thought people are more aware and accepting of the paranormal, and a book should be written to enable people to be more proactive?
I got into a discussion just a few days ago, strangely enough, about that particular subject as to why we're seeing more hauntings. And I have to say that probably part of that comes from, the fact that we're becoming attached to items, to property, and we're not seeing as many ghosts from 600-700 years ago. We're seeing more and more within the relative new age, which seem to stick around. And certainly one of the theories that was out there was that as we develop, as humans develop, we're becoming more tactile. We need more things around us, and we're becoming attached to those things, like houses, for instance. We have a love for the home and things like that, and some people don't want to leave whenever their time comes. And of course then we see that whenever new people move in, and they decide, okay, no, we don't like this wall, we'll knock that down, and lo and behold, that's whenever the person who the previous owner does not approve, and of course some of the stuff would kick up that way. So that was one of the theories as to why we're becoming more and more attached to physical things instead of just letting it go, and once our time comes, we just simply head for that light, and go wherever we're meant to go. So that was one of the things. It was very. And there are hundreds of reasons as to why a particular person would stay. And it's not just all negative, from there was a terrible murder in the house. It can be, I've came across properties where one, for instance, there was a nun, and she adored going there whenever she was alive, and just sat over, looking over the ocean, and she stayed there. She's not doing the family any harm, and they decided, okay, we'll let her stay, and that was that.
Well, we're going to kind of get into that thing, and one of the things that I wanted to discuss with you is what constitutes a haunting, because I kind of subscribe to the spirit versus ghost theory, in that just because there's a spirit in the house and a person may very well see, hear, or feel it, doesn't mean the house is haunted. I believe that spirits are all around us all the time, but as a rule, they don't haunt. Ghosts haunt. And I know it's kind of a semantic thing, and there's some confusion between the term ghost and spirit. What's your take on that?
I can see your point of view, and of course from that understanding, you would probably say then that word haunting then would have a slightly darker connotation, and I know that I've got spirits in this house. I've had regular meetings with them, and for the most part, we have a great understanding, and I live and let live, as they say, and once my door's closed, once the bedroom door's closed, that's it. They can run up and down the hall and down the stairs and do whatever, but they're not allowed in my room once the door's closed, and that's it. And they've stayed by that, and that's perfectly fine.
And people don't always understand they can set boundaries like that either.
Oh, that's very, very true. Yeah. It's about finding that balance. Really, that's what it comes down to. And of course, if the balance can't be met, then of course, you're looking at different avenues.
Yeah. Well, there is so much, as I said before, to ridding a house of a haunting, and so many factors that lots of people don't even take into consideration. And this book is a compilation of true ghost stories, hauntings, ideas, beliefs, faiths from all over the world, and it acts as a guide, as you say, to take homeowners through these belief systems to reclaim their homes. But are some hauntings, in your opinion, not solvable?
Some of them. I have to say that there are some which can be very, very tricky. Not unsolvable, it's just going to take more time, and a greater understanding on what's going on, because you really have to get into the nitty gritty of the spirit itself. Really get into it and find out, okay, who was it, what does it want, and why is it not moving? There can be many reasons for that, but perseverance. From the book perspective itself, what I seen was a great stepping away from our perspective in the Western societies, from remembering the people who have passed. The simple act of remembering someone, whether it be a relative or someone who may have lived in the property, 1 hour a year, just the fact that you're remembering them just at that particular moment can be enough to settle it down, actually. And it can be a great thing, because we're living in a society now which is getting faster and faster. What happened to the idea that we were making technology to make our lives easier? It seems that the rat race that we're in is getting faster and faster, and we have no time anymore. We haven't got time. It's going to get to a stage, I think, in another 50, God forgive us, another 50 or 70 years, that we're going to have to pay someone else to attend a funeral because we haven't got the time.
Yeah. Scary, isn't it?
Yeah.
Well, and the thing that struck me in looking through the book and stuff, is that worldwide belief systems are so across the board. I mean, culturally, spiritually, religiously. And your book covers a wide majority of them. But as I was scribbling notes down, it struck me that there are so many belief systems out there that the classic signs of a haunting, or that something other than a disgruntled spirit, perhaps an elemental or in rare cases a demonic, is the root cause, increases the difficulty of even diagnosing a haunting, much less ridding a home of one. So given all those factors, where does one begin?
Well, that's the thing. Like any good science project, you start with observation. You don't jump to results, or you don't jump to the answer. You have to take your time and note what's going on, and really get to the bottom of it. There's no point in panicking. There's no point in letting your fear get the better of you. You have to take your time. And by doing that and taking notes and noting what's going on, you're getting a better description of what you're actually dealing with. And that in itself is a huge amount of strength.
Yeah. Well, see, I just got a question from chat, kind of going back to that and back to what we were talking about before. She wants to know how you can take control of a spirit, in the sense. How does one set boundaries with a ghost?
It can be difficult in its own times. I know for the people in the Middle East, of course, they have their jinn.
Yes.
And that is something that I have tried to stay away from for a long time, and I found myself being dragged into that area for quite some time. But I know in the jinn you have a middleman. And we actually had the pleasure of interviewing one of those middlemen who negotiates with that particular type of entity, and a deal is made, and for the most part, you find that peace then ensues, and both families and spirit live in harmony. And in the odd occasion where it doesn't, there is no absolution, I suppose, or then that's whenever he steps in and he takes care of it and he finalizes it. And whenever I say he finalizes it, I mean he finalizes it from the spiritual perspective, and of course the people get their home back. But it really depends. It depends on the entity, because each type of entity is different. It needs to be treated differently. So it really comes down to what you're really dealing with.
Well, and also, I mean, I was thinking about this. In some cultures and religion, there is no belief in an afterlife. In Judaism, some believe, some don't. In Islam, it's kind of, activity is blamed again on jinn.
That's exactly right. They don't believe in ghosts.
Right.
And but they'll openly discuss jinn.
Mm-hmm. Well, and in Satanism, there is no afterlife at all. So the question that came to mind was, is it possible that those who do not believe do not experience hauntings?
No. I've came across people before who have said, no, I didn't believe in any of this, and then all of a sudden they're thrust into the middle of it. And though, I have to say, those are the people who have the greatest problem with it, and because it goes against their belief systems.
Right.
And I can understand and I can sympathize. And if they bring someone in to deal with it, well then, of course, it shocks them up a little bit.
Yeah, I imagine it would. I've got a question, a comment and a question from the chat room. She said, Barry, thanks for all you do for the whole paranormal education of us folks. My question is this. I've been affected since childhood by really frightening paranormal experiences. It's truly affected my adult life as well. I'm a writer by profession and have decided to write about my experiences, either fiction or nonfiction. Do you think this will help me deal with it?
A lot of people, what I find, whenever they have experiences, and experiences which steer their life, they sit on them. They don't talk about them. Maybe it's fear of ridicule, not quite sure how their friends will react, but there are people out there who will listen. And certainly there are a good few people out there who have got their hearts in the right place and will steer you in the direction that you would need to go. I'm aware that some entities can be very, very harsh, and some people, of course, have maybe one or two experiences with them, and other people are condemned to live the experiences for the rest of their lives as these things repeatedly keep coming back. I sympathize with that, but a lot of my work, of course, looks at that. I continually work with people off the show. My travel I'm always traveling, and I'm meeting people and always trying to find that solution, trying to find that pin that will make it move.
Yeah, and it's funny because so many people just kind of not take it for granted, but just figure, well, this is the way it is, without being a little bit more proactive, and that's the sad part, because, unless you jump in and actually try to make heads or tails out of things, it just doesn't work. And I would think that superstition, folklore, old wives' tales come into play quite a bit in certain countries when it comes to what we call paranormal activity. Does that make it much harder to deal with and rid a house of haunting because of personal beliefs?
I think the biggest problem that I see so far is the use of the word demon. I find that word is so insidious. And just the word, I don't mean the entity itself. The word is so insidious, and it's being used by people who have no experience with that type of entity. And they'll go into a home and say, oh, this is demonic behavior. Well, that in itself is so deadly for the homeowner, because those people, of course, the researchers are leaving, and they're leaving the homeowner carrying this torch. And that word festers, and it grows a seed, and of course then that begins to grow and things become worse, and that can be a stark problem. Now, if I do come across a property where there is that type of behavior, I won't even tell them. I'll just deal with it, and then leave, because they don't. In my opinion, they don't need to know. I'll go in. They've asked me to go in and fix it. I'll go in and fix it, and that's it. I leave.
Yeah, it leaves a stigma. But, people are always quick, the word demon, because they're always quick to blame something bad. So, some might blame a curse, some might blame a witch, some might blame the devil or the demons. It's so much easier to say it's something that's malevolent than, possibly a spirit that was just kind of an old crumb bucket in life and still is over there.
That's very true. Yeah, very, very true.
We have a caller. Area code 651. Hi. Who's here?
Hi. Jenny.
Hi. Hi, Jenny. How are you?
Good.
Got a question for Barry?
Yep. Let me see. What is your favorite place to invest in Ireland?
Oh, in Ireland. There was a place that always remains in my heart, and it was a place called Guildhall, Gillhall, and that. It was a huge property. It was a house built in 1670. It burned in 1969, but was known as the most haunted house in all of Ireland. Of course, a lot of people heard the horse and coach repeatedly on that site, and I took over the investigating from a group who were investigating in the 60s with the BBC. And we started to take it further, and lo and behold, then with working with the British Geological Society, correlating information from a Swiss physicist, we were able to record the sounds of the carriage and the two horses coming across the bridge, and we were able to pinpoint within the range of 2 to 3 days of when this was likely to happen, and we got it. And it was an absolutely wonderful find, and that property has always remained a soft spot in my heart, I have to say.
Thanks for calling in, Jenny. I think we lost her. Okay. Are you here, Barry?
Oh, yes, I'm here.
Okay. All of a sudden got way too quiet. All right. Got another couple of questions from the chat room that we should probably get to. They're flying by so quickly. Someone wants to know if you think rather than getting rid of the spirits, people can learn to coexist with respect for each other. He says, after all, where are they going to go? They may be bound here for a period of time.
Oh yes, you can find you can find harmony. I do it here, and although I can't say as much for my guests who stay in the room next door, that's their problem. But I do find a great harmony with it, and people can learn to live with them, it's not frightening in any way, and if you find that mutual respect, that goes a long way.
Yeah, exactly. Let me get this really quick. Somebody wants to know, what is your favorite candy or candies?
Ooh. There is a candy over here in Europe, and it's a chocolate bar, milk chocolate, and it's made by Milka. And you can only get it though on the mainland Europe, and it is delicious. Oh, it's so bad, but I could eat it by the bar.
Sounds delicious to me. One more question from chat. What place have you been that was the most active?
On or off the show?
Either one.
If we take off the show, then I would have to say the one place that really sticks in my mind is the time whenever the entity itself nearly did kill me. It came so close. So that place, of course, is in Romania, and I have been frightened to go back there ever since, because I knew that particular entity was still there. So I could feel its pull, even in the middle of the night as I'm passing by. I know where it is, and it's keeps calling. So some of these days, I've been thinking actually this year, touch wood, that I will go back. I will go back to that lake and I will confront it. Well, we'll see what happens.
Brave soul. Yeah. Sometimes, I don't know, sometimes it's best to leave well enough alone, or, it's maybe sometime good to just get back in there.
It'll make my next book a bestseller.
Well, let's hope not posthumously, okay? I mean, when you think about it. All right, so in the book, you talk about belief systems in Asia, the Americas, Africa, Australia, Europe, the Middle East, and India, not to cover all bases. How may a haunting in China, for example, differ from one, say, in Romania?
Well, it's about how they appreciate the spirit world. Of course, within Asia, there's a great belief system in ancestral ghosts and spirits. So in China, of course, if you don't bury them properly, or to their wishes, whether it be cremation or burial or whatever, then you are opening yourself up for a particular haunting, which can be extremely bothersome to the family who are living in the house. So that's something extremely important that they find. And of course, you have the legends of the Chinese hopping ghost. Which in itself, they believe that once the body has been left in, a spirit will jump into it, and the body will start to shake. Really, what happens is that they bind the body so tightly that they're hitting nerve endings, and the body, of course, with some electrical activity still within its systems, tends to twitch. And that's what happens there. But ancestral ghosts are big in Asia.
Yes.
And though they tend not to investigate per se like we would do, they know that they exist and they don't want to disturb anything. So they have a great respect for the spirits, I have to say, in Asia.
Absolutely. I've got a ton of questions coming in here, so I'm going to throw them at you here and there. But also, guys, if anybody wants to call in, the number is scrolling down at the bottom of the page, 888-99-PARA-X. Easy to figure out. All right. Bob wants to know, what location do you want to investigate the most that you haven't been able to get to yet?
Well, we have a big centenary year coming up here, and which makes Belfast the most wanted to be place in 2012, apparently, and that's because of the sinking of the Titanic. And she was built in Belfast. That's something we're extremely proud of course. But that's the one place that I want to investigate. And 2.5 hours down onto the ocean at the wreck site itself, and that's where I would want to go.
Wow, sounds interesting. All right, again, we've got another. Your favorite haunted place? Did we cover that? Because this questioner doesn't remember.
Guildhall in Ireland.
Okay.
Certainly would be it.
Okay. Got another one from Jig. She wants to know if you've ever brought a ghost home with you.
Oh, yes. Some of the cast have experienced that, leaving a property and then being woken up several hours later to find something in the room. And it happens from time to time. And for the most part, they leave themselves. The work that we do, of course, you have to realize that a bright light attracts flies. That's very, very, very true. I remember whenever I was piecing together the influence, I was given the warning: don't become too bright, or they see you. And that I have stuck pretty true to that warning, I have to say, and have respected that.
Yeah, I always say it's like we have a neon sign. way above the house or wherever we are, and it's, it's like the neon signs for diners. Eat here, it points right down, and here we are.
Yeah.
Is there a common thread in hauntings that you can always rely on, or is each so unique that there isn't anything in particular that you are certain of?
I think there are certain common traits within them. For the most part, it is we do tend to find some daytime hauntings, but for the most part, they're going to happen at night. There are certain entities which, of course, certain criteria has to be met before they can start to affect our reality. They have to go through a certain stage of manifestation, and we understand that. We understand what is happening there, and we understand how we can affect that as well, and create, of course, a safe room where these entities cannot manifest, and allow the family to get some rest while the rest of the property is dealt with. So there are certain traits, but like everything else, there is going to be differences from different spiritual perspectives because of not everyone is the same. In fact, we're all different. We all have our little quirks and differences, and that certainly can carry across.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. All right, we've got another question, but my chat window just went really strange. Actually, in the meantime, while I try to straighten that out, we have a caller. 818 area code, I think. Hello, who's there?
Hi, this is Julia. How are you doing?
Hi,
Fine, Julia.
This is my question for Barry with that Kilimanjaro climb that he's going to be doing. Mm-hmm. Does he expect to find anything up there? Anything paranormal? And is he ready for it?
I'm likely to find snow and probably a set of lungs, which will belong to me. But of course, it's all for a good cause, for Oxfam Ireland.
I know that. Right.
It's 7 days on the mountain, and it's a very, very extremely intensely tough climb up there, and then it's a speedy descent as well. 17 hours. We'll be walking on one particular day to meet the summit, and then get back down again. So a 17-hour stretch. That's extremely physically tough.
Are you? Have you done this before? I mean, mountain climbing?
Not at all. I'm afraid of heights.
You are brave. Well, good luck. We're all be there with you.
Thank you very much. The only thing I've done, Julia, is to take the entire team up to it was a live volcano in Nicaragua, and we sandboarded down the outside of it. Joe Chin never forgive me for it because, of course, he doesn't like exercise too much. But
I think I saw that.
We had a great day.
Some of that. That's cool. Well, we'll all be there with you, Barry. You take care.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thanks for calling in.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
You're welcome, Marla.
While we're on the subject of your climb up Mount Kilimanjaro, you mentioned Oxfam. And for those who don't know what Oxfam is, would you kind of fill us in?
Certainly. Oxfam itself, is a charity which is based around giving people a chance. And it's tough for people sometimes, especially in developing countries where you don't have a sustainable livelihood, and you don't have access like we do to essential services, equal rights and everything else. So Oxfam, of course, support that, and they have many different parts of the charity itself, where there's development of water, getting wells down and things like that for people, and having general safety as well, of course, for family units. And that's what I want to do. I want to give something back. I want to support a good cause, and this was the cause that really jumped out at me, and I said I want to do this, and touch wood, I have enough I get enough backing, enough sponsorship that I can do it, because it is going to be one of the most extreme things that I've ever done in my entire life.
Yes.
And I intend to keep video of it, and I'll piece that video together and put it up on YouTube for everyone whenever I get back.
Oh, that'll be fantastic. We have another caller on the line. It's the unknown caller. Hello, unknown caller.
Why would that be me?
I don't know. It just says unknown number, so...
No, we got the 864 area code is next. Someone called in with an unknown phone number. Who's on the other line, please?
I'm 864.
Yeah, I was asking, there's another person in the show right now. Who are we talking to, please? The other caller.
I'm going to speak to Barry.
There you go. There we got it. That's who it is. And please hang on the line, 864 area code, and you will be next.
Okay, thank you.
It sounds like a Scottish accent I heard there.
Me too.
Barry, TJ, we met in Porterville last November.
Porterville?
October, I'll just look. Porterville.
Oh, I know who you are now, yes. How's everything over there in California?
Oh, fantastic, hey?
Good man.
Hey, I was looking at your calendar and it says you're coming back to California in November.
That's right, November, yes.
Are you going down around San Diego? Or where are you? Or can you say?
It'll be up in Allensworth for a few days, and then I'll be off doing some research up there, and more than likely I could be down in San Diego. Yes.
You want to check out the Willie House?
You never know. I might just get to it. Fingers crossed. There's a lot of things I still have to do. So getting around to some of the places I mightn't be able to get to, but I'll definitely try.
Well, I'll follow you on the Facebook if you're around there. We might meet up or something.
Good man.
Might get ultra fry maybe.
I will indeed. How's the other half? Is she doing well?
Oh, she's doing great, Ty.
Good man. Good man.
Doing well.
Good man. Stay safe, man.
Bye-bye.
All right, take care.
Bye-bye.
Now, that's just strange, Barry, because I'm from California, and I don't sound a bit like him.
No, he's from Ireland.
I know. I'm just kidding. All right, now we have the other caller on the line, the 864, I believe. Hello, you still there?
Yes, I am.
Hi.
Listen to that. That is a beautiful accent.
Oh, thank you. I was going to compliment you first, but thank you. I didn't know I had one, but thank you. I was wanting to know, Barry, this is Angie, if you plan on getting into the southern states anytime soon, because we're having just an abundance of activity, and I'm also working on a book. I think you've helped me with one of them before, but I'm working on one about ghost stories that's been around for, well, probably since the Civil War and a little bit before. Mm-hmm. And I was wanting to know if you intended on getting a chance to investigate any of that anytime soon.
I would certainly love to come down to the southern states. I always have a fantastic time down there. People are so charming, and again, the accents. I could sit and listen to the accents all day. They're just wonderful.
All day too.
I was just going to say, Barry, everybody loves your accent, so yeah.
Exactly.
Have fun either, right?
It's very, very tough for me at the moment to try and put a fixed schedule together, because of course filming takes precedent, and it really depends where I would be in filming. I'm off to Singapore the end of the month, and that's different projects that I have going. I just really can't say at this early stage in the year if I'll be down in the southern states.
Okay, because I'm getting together a group, and I wanted to see if we could get you to talk to us and teach us a little something before we actually start getting out there and doing stuff.
I tell you, the best thing to do is to watch my Facebook.
I do.
If I'm going somewhere within, yes, it'll definitely appear on Facebook, and then just send me a message.
Okay, Barry, I will.
Great. Thank you very much.
Thanks for calling
Thank you. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. And we have another one. Hello.
Hello.
Hi, who's this?
This is Star.
Hi, Star.
Star. I know Star.
You know Star. Good.
My question is, what can you do to help your clients who have been, say, investigated by another group who has brought in that bad little D word? How can you help them?
Well, the first thing that the homeowner has to do is to help themselves. You can go in there and settle their nerves down, but if they end up picking the phone up and speaking to the people again, well then you're back to square one. It's the same with some of the times when you clear a property. The people just bring it straight back. And it doesn't matter how many times you go back there and continually clear the property, they can bring it back. So the first thing you got to do is of course settle their nerves and reassure them. Reassurance is a big thing, and really just being a decent person and listening to the stories and reassurance. That's really what it comes down to.
Yes.
Okay.
So when are you going to Minnesota next?
Oh my goodness, Star. I
want to be there.
I'm not sure. My schedule is still floating at the moment for between March and September. It's still floating, so I don't know what's happening yet, Star, until I find out with filming, and then I'm able to start setting down plans.
Maybe you'll come to North Carolina first, because that's where I still am. So.
Well, there you go. I could be down there.
You never know.
You just never know, yeah.
It's warmer.
All right. Thanks for calling in, Star. Appreciate it.
Good talking to you again. Bye.
Thank you.
You take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.
All right, Barry. I've got a pretty good question from chat, because it's one of my pet peeves when people do this. Chrissy wants to know, is it true that you shouldn't investigate your own home? She said she was telling a friend about some strange stuff happening in her house, and he told her not to investigate her own house.
If they're inexperienced, yes, it probably would be best if they didn't do that. The last thing you want to do is to open a door that you don't know how to close. Exactly. So that's an important thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it especially, as you said, opening that door, because you never know what's going to walk through it.
Too true.
And if you don't have the chops to back it up, you're in trouble.
You are. You're out of there. You're out through your front door quicker than an Italian captain off his boat.
But you don't have a life raft to fall into when you get there, right? Yes. And you probably won't go to jail. There's a blurb in your book that says there are several true tales of hauntings bursting with shock, and a lot of them are. Has there ever been a time during any investigation that you've ever been so shocked, or maybe just so unprepared, that you just had to walk away?
I had an occasion whenever I was investigating I believe it was the castle in Prague Castle. And underneath there, one of the king's wives, she wasn't operating all on the upper floors. Let's leave it that way. I went down there with a specialized camera and started the work down there, and the camera started to malfunction, and it was doing things that it shouldn't have been doing, and of course, whenever the moment that I let my defense down with all the equipment, that's whenever I got whacked. And off she went to another part of the castle catacombs. And that was one of those occasions whenever I realized that was stupid. And I just says, right, that's enough. I need to get out of here for a while.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, sometimes you, and that's the thing, sometimes you have to know when to walk away. And a lot of people just, I'm going to fix this, and if it kills me, well, you know what? It just might if you're not careful. So, yeah. Now, it's suggested in your book it's suggested about your book that it's a great book for homeowners and researchers. But I think I'm going to take it another step farther and say that it's good for anyone who has a belief in the paranormal, because in a sense, forewarned is forearmed.
That is very, very true. And of course, the reason that the book was written was that I was seeing a huge number of people now wanting to explore and research the paranormal, whether it just be for 1 month or whether it be for a year. And of course, they were buying all these different types of trinkets to bring in to try and capture evidence of a ghost. But once they got it, they didn't know what to do.
Right.
And you're giving the homeowner the sound of a voice, a possible sound of a voice, or a possible picture depicting an entity in their closet, and they leave. Mm-hmm. And the homeowner, of course, are left holding this torch, going, "Well, what do I do now?" And they didn't know, and the homeowner didn't know. So that's why really the book was written, to just give them some guidance into where they can go and what to expect. We don't sanction any belief system, or we don't back any belief system within the book. That's entirely up to the reader themselves. About which avenue they want to follow. But we try and put as much detail in there as we could.
It's a great book, and I recommend that everybody just run over to Lulu, because that's where you can get it. We should mention where to pick up the book, right?
That's right. If they pop over to Charm Stealer, the charmstealer.com, there's links there for the books, and they can pick them up through there.
And let's talk a little bit about charmstealer.com. I was nosing around there earlier today, and it's very impressive. And the Charm Stealer himself is adorable in kind of a nasty-looking little way, but very cute. So fill us in. What's going on over at Charm Stealer? What's it all about?
Charm Stealer, of course. Charm Stealer is the leprechaun from the northern counties of Ireland, at the very beginning of the website, I put in a description there. Leprechaun, a somewhat mischievous and industrial creature, but once a relationship has been established, they will be as faithful and loyal as long as you are. It's all a bit of tongue in cheek, and the site itself is about Irish things, not solely, but predominantly, a lot of it is about that. But if people want to come and visit Ireland, at the moment, things can be pretty expensive. And of course, from my perspective, I wanted to reach out there and put in some information for people who want to come to Ireland for whether it be a long weekend or for a week, and put in links and recommendations, places which don't break the bank, and are extremely affordable, like Ross Castle down in County Meath, where there's 9 spirits inside and countless spirits outside, but it is an absolute joy to stay in, and it's way off the tourist route, and it's a 15th century castle, and to be able to stay in these places was a big thing for me. So there's all these recommendations, from Ross Castle to to the little thatched cottages that I've personally stayed in as well, and that's why I'm recommending them. And they're affordable, which is great as well. So you're getting the recommendations there of visiting Ireland. You're also getting recommendations for different books and different artists, which are Irish. There's appearances in there of people who are able to keep track of what I'm doing and where I'll be. And I've often been asked by a lot of folks, can I buy some of your photographs? Well, now they have the opportunity, and of course there's a clothing line there with the wonderful charm stealer himself on the fronts. And the books, of course, are available through there. And of course, again, I know we have talked about it already, but the details on the charity walk,
yes,
the climb up to Kilimanjaro in Africa is also on there. And if people can support me, that is absolutely wonderful. It's very, very kind.
Can and will, because it's a noble cause. So I think everybody needs to jump on that bandwagon. Definitely. And the artwork on the website, some of the stuff you've got up there is gorgeous. Gorgeous. So everybody needs to run over to charmstealer.com and wink at the leprechaun, and he'll let you in, right? Is that how it's done?
That's very true.
Okay. Strangely enough, we're out of questions, which is great, and I really want to thank you so much for stopping by tonight. I'm always haunted by the fact that 1 hour isn't nearly enough. And, we witchy folks have the sands in our hourglass that are so unruly, they just go way too quickly. But let's talk just briefly about the new season of GHI. When is that about to start?
That begins in February, late February, and it's going to be one of our best seasons yet, and controversial as well. We end up going to places which are way off the beaten track. Forget the castles and everything else. We were in Mayan ruins in Belize, and we were hiking through jungles. Rivers, we were into water over our heads trying to get into cave systems. We were flying high into the Andes in Peru to investigate Inca ruins, an entire city. And what we discovered, I have to say, those Incans really were tuned into something that we have forgotten, and we managed to capture something which I am so mesmerized by. I just don't understand, because it went against every rule in the book, and it's going to be a fascinating batch of filming.
So you're leaving us with a dun dun dun, right?
Indeed.
I love it. All right. Well, stay on the line just a second after we go off so we can thank you properly. And again, thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule. Everybody go out and get the book. And thank you all for listening in tonight. And until next time, everyone, blessed be and merry meet again. Good night.
Thank you for tuning in to this episode of Stirring the Cauldron with Marla Brooks. Please join us again next week at the same time for another great guest and more cauldron stirring. Any rebroadcast or other use of this program without explicit permission is strictly prohibited. Copyright 2018. The Path of the Goblin King by Kevin MacLeod is licensed through Incompetech.com.